Alright, it's official. A CGI Raccoon is officially the most relatable character in all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And suddenly, my favorite superhero. But what makes Rocket Raccoon so relatable? Why is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 being hailed as the greatest Marvel movie since Endgame? And why in the hell did I spend over $40 on movie tickets to watch this movie 3 times in theaters over the course of 3 days? Let's discuss it all together. Is this working? Okay. A quick warning before I get into this. This story contains topics of suicide and child abuse. If these subjects are triggering for you, please seek the resources inside of the description of this video so that you can get the help that you need. You deserve so much better. Thank you. Also, spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. According to the National Children's Alliance, it's estimated that 618,000 children were made victims of neglect and abuse during 2020 in the United States alone. However, this is not an issue exclusive to the US. The CDC states that as of November 2018, at least 50% of children in Asia, Africa, and North America experienced violence in just the previous year alone. Abuse is real, and sadly, relatively common. 2015 is the year with the most reports of child abuse for the past decade, with, in just that 1 year, 683,221 cases of child abuse. Coincidentally, that year, at 13 years of age, I became a part of that statistic. Not only did I become a part of that statistic, but I did so while living in Texas, which is, according to Statista, the state with the highest number of unique victims of child abuse in the country. Now, I could give a lot of important statistics about why this happens and what can be done to prevent it, and I'm sure I'll go into that in a future post. But when I was 13, I didn't care about the political or societal reasons for abuse being so rampant in the world. I was a young, impressionable child who should have been able to trust and depend on my parents to love me, care for me, guide me, and protect me. Instead, I experienced verbal abuse, including constant screaming, with insults including names like crack baby. In an effort to try to prevent triggers and for just general privacy, I will not go into too much detail about what happened. All I will say is that many times I felt like I was in danger. I feared for my life. I felt trapped, helpless, and isolated. I did not sleep a lot of nights. After trying to call the police to receive help, I was falsely arrested and detained for a night because they believed the words of the adult, my abuser, over me. I couldn't trust the law enforcement system, the people whose job it is, supposedly, to stand up for the little guy and protect the innocent. I couldn't even rely on them, so who could I trust? Unlike ordinary sadness or grief, which can occur temporarily after a loss, the symptoms of depression occur nearly every day for weeks, sometimes months or years, interfering with all aspects of an individual's life. After I left Texas, I cut off contact with my abusers, but the issues were not over. Similar to how cockroaches create nests inside of your pipes or drains, the mental strongholds of depression, anxiety, fear of abandonment, the complete destruction of my identity, and a complete inability to trust others had all created permanent infestations in my brain. Immediately, I began going through counseling. By the time I was a sophomore in high school, I'd already had at least 4 different therapists. I knew all of the coping strategies, but yet I still had this constant fear in romantic relationships that my partner would leave, and I constantly had voices in my head telling me that I wasn't good enough or skilled enough or charming or useful. I think it's safe to say that even after years and years of therapy, this abuse will never stop being a part of my story. No matter how many coping skills I learned, no matter how much baking soda I put down those pipes, I will never be able to kill all of those cockroaches. The root problem was that I didn't know who I was. How could I thought challenge the phrase, "You are pointless and worthless," a mistake, if I didn't know what my purpose or my worth was? I was just a victim. I knew what my abuser said wasn't true, but I had nothing to replace it with. Who was I other than a kid subject to the horrors of evil? Fast forward May 7th, 2023. I went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in theaters with my aunt and my brothers. Being a huge fan of Peacemaker, along with the previous Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I had high expectations for this film. James Gunn is one of my favorite directors, and after seeing this movie, I have to say I am even more in love with this man and his craft. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 follows Rocket Raccoon's origin story, coming from a place of abuse and learning not to let his past define him. A moment that could probably very easily get overlooked is when the rest of the Guardians, Rocket's friends and family, learn about his abuse. They are struck with horror and grief. Nebula, a character whose father literally gouged her eyes out and replaced them with black, demon-like prosthetics as a method of torture, says, "It's worse than what Thanos did to me." It's a quick moment, but it helps to show the full extent of just how much suffering and trauma Rocket went through during his childhood. And yet, not even his closest friends or family, even after many, many years of road tripping together, even after countless near-death experiences and universes traveled together, not even they know about his excruciating past. It's not uncommon for victims of abuse to be quiet about their past. Psych Central says some abuse survivors may not speak up about their experiences for a variety of reasons. Abuse survivors who choose not to disclose their experiences of past or current abuse are sometimes referred to as silent victims. Silent victims will be quiet about their experiences for a variety of reasons. One of these reasons is shame. When someone goes through something so intense, they will sometimes start to think that somehow they caused it. For example, I once thought that if I had just listened to my abuser's instructions better, then I would not have been punished or ridiculed like I was. If I had just met the unrealistic and literally impossible expectations set for me, maybe my parents would have been able to be proud of me. Rocket shows us that he also feels this way through the guilt for the death of his friends from before the Guardians. He still thinks that all of that pain and loss was, at least in part, his fault. Now, I want to make this abundantly clear. That thought process is wrong. No one who is abused, whether it be physically, verbally, sexually, financially, or in any other form, it is not your fault. You are so much more than just a victim of an evil person doing an evil thing to you. You don't deserve any of that. You, like everyone else, deserve nothing but privacy, respect, admiration, and love. You are amazing inherently just by being you. The question that you have to figure out is, who is that? Who are you? All of these thoughts and memories are flooding through my brain as we see flashbacks from Rocket's childhood. Then, when Rocket heard the voice of his abuser for the first time in years, he freezes. That's a feeling I know all too well. For years after the events of 2015, I avoided my abuser. Any mention of her name caused immediate panic attacks. It took me years just to be able to say, I'm okay. I remember clear as day the first time I was able to put those two words together in a casual conversation. And so when Rocket's eyes went wide-eyed at the sound of his abuser's voice, I immediately saw myself in him. The movie goes on, giving us more information about his past until eventually Rocket is face to face with his abuser. The High Evolutionary instinctually begins ridiculing Rocket, physically assaulting him, throwing him around the room, dead-naming him, and saying that he was just an experiment gone wrong. A mistake. After hearing his dead name, Rocket stands up to his abuser and states, "The name is Rocket. Rocket Raccoon." Later in that scene, one of the other Guardians proposes that they kill the High Evolutionary as a way to punish him. However, instead of giving in to his rage and anger, Rocket stays firm in his newfound identity as a protector for the little guy and rejects the proposition, saying, "No, because I'm a freaking guardian of the galaxy." Although his abuse was forever going to be a part of his past experiences, he was not going to let that impact his future. He chose a new identity. He was so much more than the pain and the lies fed to him for all of those years, and at the end of the day, he lived his life on his terms, soaring through the stars with his friends and family as he'd always dreamed, defending those who can't defend themselves. Rocket is an example of how to overcome your trauma. Don't let it define you. Don't let that piece of shit person continue to have control over your future. You went through something horrible. You have the ability to connect with other people who have also gone through something evil, but that's not who you are. Take it as a part of you, but don't let it consume you. Find people who you can connect with and trust and form a new family and a new identity and a new future for yourself. Ask yourself, who do I want to be? And go towards that future. Don't pursue a future because of hatred for someone else. Pursue a future because that will make you happy. And at the end of the day, you deserve to be happy. The fact that you have endured all of that crap and you're still here is in itself incredible, and I am so proud of you. Never forget that you are so strong, you are so unique, you are so important, and most importantly, you are so amazing. Thank you for being you.